Welcome to another handy lesson. In today's video, we're going to talk about the immersion method. This methodology was originally created in Canada so they can provide students a new way of acquiring the second official language of Canada, which is French. So in order to achieve that, teachers had to develop effective presentations and create awesome backgrounds and to engage their audience and capture their attention so they could create meaningful information, meaningful content for the students to acquire the second language. There are two different approaches in the immersion. We could say immersion is one of them. The other is submersion. The difference between one and the other is that submersion approach requires teachers who most likely are native speakers to use the language with the students as if the students were already native speakers without doing any kind of slowness or slowing down in the speed they talk or any kind of they just should consider students as if they were native, so they will be exposed to the language and acquire it as if they were their first language, as if it was their first language. Immersion, on the contrary, requires teachers who, by the way, are most of the time native speakers to slow down their fluency when they speak, to make emphasis on the specific areas of content that they want students to learn according to the lessons that are prepared. So we have two different approaches, submersion and immersion. Lambert, who is a distinguished linguist, made a distinction between both of approaches. So one, he mentioned, is additive and the other is subtractive. The additive one means that the person who is receiving the lessons is going to be added with a second language. Unlike subtractive, which requires students to forget about their first language and in order to use that space in their brain for the second language. In the case of the first part, the additive form is the immersion approach. The subtractive characteristic belongs to the submersion approach. So immersion has proven to be effective to provide and to speed up the learning of a second language. The main characteristic of immersion is teaching through content. Just like in the methodology that we checked in the previous lesson, CLEAL, immersion requires students to be exposed to the language, and the lessons should be through the language, not about the language. Should be through the language using different contexts, cultural backgrounds, subject matters, but not teaching about the language itself. So students are taught in the target language, not translating to their native language. However, sometimes it might be allowed to translate if it is really necessary for students to understand a concept. So usually people or teachers who teach through this methodology are also bilingual, so they could be empathetic to the students. To conclude, it says immersion seeks to speed up language acquisition by providing a maximum exposure to the language, having or giving emphasis to the main areas of content according to the prepared lessons, and bringing students to acquire a second language through content and cultural background. So, as usual, you have your activity to practice in your PDF, and I'll see you in the next lesson.